You sent for me? You sent a telegram? Asked me to meet you here?
Recently, we were introduced to the character of Enola Holmes, the younger sister of Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes, portrayed by the popular Millie Bobby Brown. While the movie turned the franchise on its head and faced controversy from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle fanboys, there's no doubt about it that it made a splash on the Netflix trending page. So, if you're a lover of Easter eggs or just can't get enough of Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavil, stay right where you are as we're about to explore some of the hidden secrets of Enola Holmes that you totally missed. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. First, the concept of Enola Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is a character so suited to the world and so popularized by modern media that next to everyone knows who he is. Even before his portrayal by either Robert Downey Jr. or Benedict Cumberbatch, Sherlock was the placeholder for a supercharged sleuth everywhere, similar to how Einstein is used as a placeholder for intelligent geniuses. You also don't have to be a reader to know that Sherlock Holmes was first created in the novels of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and as such, you definitely won't be surprised to hear that Sherlock's sister, Enola, has the very same origin. What might surprise you, however, is that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was not the one who created the teenage bombshell. That's right, boys and girls, Enola Holmes was actually created by Nancy Springer, who adopted the universe made by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and thus allowed for a strong female character like Enola to walk the streets of Sherlock's London. It's not often you have a new author introducing elements into an already existent universe, but Enola Holmes is evidence that it absolutely works. Second, the sister of Sherlock. On this topic, it's important to know that although Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had written a great number of stories revolving around Sherlock Holmes, he had never given any indication that either Sherlock or Mycroft had a long-lost sister. This is why a few fans of the Sherlock works were surprised to hear about Enola Holmes. But did you know that Enola is not the first long-lost sister of Sherlock and the family? In the British television series of the same name, spearheaded by Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, fans were introduced to Eurus, the brilliant sister of Sherlock who had been left to her own devices, with this abandonment causing her to become crazy. After being institutionalized, she takes on a villainous appearance and becomes everything that Sherlock fears. When Enola Holmes was first introduced, super sleuths of the franchise theorized that she might in fact be the early years version of Eurus, but we're here to tell you that this is far from the truth. We apologize if you had your hopes up, but simply put, the ages of the two characters just don't match up. That being said, there are quite a few similarities between the two as seen in Millie's portrayal of the character. Enola Holmes comes off as being extremely independent and brilliant in her deductive skills, a trait shared by Eurus, which results in her being institutionalized. We also see that Enola grew up by her mother's side but was otherwise left completely to her own devices, a fact that is emphasized by her name backwards spelling alone. The same can of course be said about Eurus, who was abandoned by her family, albeit a far different way. There is no getting past the notion that Enola Holmes is not in fact Eurus, but may very well be seen as a tip of the hat to this popular character from the British series. Next, my dear Watson. Fans of the franchise were also a bit surprised at the lack of any Watson in Enola Holmes. We didn't need Jude Law or Martin Freeman after all, but we were at least expecting someone to carry the torch. Well, boys and girls, to make sure that Enola retained as much of the spotlight as possible in her own movie, the writers made the conscious decision to set the film in the early days of Sherlock's career. The young detective is thus yet to reach the fame and fortune that we are used to him having. Characters throughout the movie referencing the fact that he chooses to work alone. Contextually speaking, Sherlock has yet to meet Watson at this point, which makes his disappearance from the franchise completely understandable, and leaves the role open for further iterations, of which there are likely to be many. Come on, Netflix, cast someone already. How about Enola and Viscount? Although Watson being present in the movie didn't make sense contextually, it must be said that the character was paid homage to when Enola met Viscount Tewkesbury, as portrayed by the delightful Louis Partridge for the first time. We see the two characters meet on the train that Enola has stowed herself away on, and as they stare at one another, we can't help but to think of all the old concept art of Sherlock and Watson that can be found in the Boscombe Valley Mystery and the Adventure of Silver Blaze short stories. Believe it or not, this was completely intentional. You see, the directors felt a bit bad about excluding such an important character and wanted Enola to have her own version of Watson. For this reason, they dressed Millie and Louis to mirror the images of Sherlock and Watson respectively, giving Viscount the introduction he deserves while paying homage to the character we have come to love over the years. It's little hidden details like these that make Enola Holmes so engaging. Then, there's a subtle hint at Enola's caring character. It doesn't take a genius or a sleuth to figure out that Enola is a caring character. This fact is pretty much handed to the viewer on a silver platter when she fights the man in the bowler hat, leaving her injured and causing her to break the fourth wall by telling us that she has no idea why she feels so responsible for other people. Earlier on in the movie, we also hear of the time she risked her life to save a sheep from almost falling off a cliff, leaving her gravely injured but saving its life. This seems like a throwaway of sorts, but it's used to make a pretty big statement later on. You see, boys and girls, when Enola finally says goodbye to Viscount, we see him sitting on the back of a carriage with his white suit blending in perfectly with the sheep behind him, reminding us of the time Enola risked her life for a sheep and subtly hinting that Viscount has, to a large extent, been a lost sheep that Enola has helped to save. It seems that Enola just can't help herself from saving those who need to be saved. Next, the game is afoot. Very early on in the movie, we hear Enola saying quite enthusiastically that the game is afoot. And although William Shakespeare has been heralded as the father of this phrase, it must be said that it was popularized by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and has in a sense become synonymous with the character of Sherlock Holmes. Used first in the story of The Adventure of the Abbey Grange, Sherlock enthusiastically looks over at Watson and says, "Come, Watson, come. The game is afoot." So in just a few scenes, Enola already pays tribute to her brother in the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, making it one of the quickest Easter eggs to pop onto the screen. Here we thought Enola was just trying to sound cool. Next, newspaper clippings for days. As we said earlier, Sherlock is very much in the early stages of his career during the running of Enola Holmes, and although his name is not known by the citizens of London, his deeds most certainly are. This can be seen in the number of newspaper clippings Enola has kept over the years documenting these achievements, referring to Sherlock as the mysterious young detective. One of these newspaper clippings actually makes reference to the legend of Jack the Ripper, who became known as the Ripper of Women, killing a great number of female prostitutes during this dark period of English history. This is far more than a nod to one of the greatest serial killers of all time, however, as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had actually taken time to investigate the murders using the deductive skills he created for his most popular character. With this little Easter egg, Enola has thus not only referenced Doyle's works, but his investigative and curious nature as well. Then there's those illustrations everywhere. Throughout Enola Holmes, we see a great many illustrations that mirror the work of Sidney Paget, who most will know as the original illustrator for the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. One illustration stands out as the most famous of them all, however, which is the widely used portrait of Sherlock Holmes smoking his wooden pipe that was first found in the story of The Man with the Twisted Lip. This very same portrait was actually used in Enola Holmes, but had been doctored by replacing the original head of the illustration with an illustration of Henry Cavil's head. The illustration had also been animated to show smoke actually running from the pipe, making reference to one of Sherlock's most loved pastimes. And this is far from the last time such an image was used. We see another illustration of Sherlock punching a man, for example, which is another superimposed illustration from the story of The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist. Who knew that so much thought had actually been put into a few of the simple illustrations of the film? Such history. Last but not least, the tools of an investigator. Sherlock Holmes has become widely known by all as the greatest detective of all time, and as such has a number of tools connected to his character. Where Batman has his Batmobile, Sherlock has his deer hunting cap. Where Gandalf has his pipe, so does Sherlock. But most importantly, Sherlock has come to be known for his use of the magnifying glass, a tool that is referenced when he visits Enola at the boarding school she has been sent to. Although never used for its true purpose, Sherlock plays with the instrument while he speaks to Enola, running it through his fingers without a second thought as to how important this tool is going to become in his hands one day. Such a great reference. Anyway, that wraps up the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.